What do you think has happened in the last several months, let's say, that you think, I assume, has brought this to a full boil?
Well, I think that people on both sides of the political aisle have realized that it's not okay for the large tech companies to have basically blanket immunity for the content on their platform. And so you've seen progressive people calling for an overhaul of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And in the long run, this is a good thing. You mentioned my new book, Which Side of History, and I wrote a piece in there with my colleague Bruce Reed saying why Section 230 is bad for kids, because there's a lot of content on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera, that should be regulated. And that's what Section 230 prevents right now. It's why it's such an important issue and will be clearly dealt with by whoever is president in 2021.
Right. What, say, Twitter or Facebook would look like with that immunity stripped away? How would the product change? And how would it affect a lot of the politicians who've been critical, but at the same time rely heavily on those platforms to get their message out?
That's a great question. I think, one, some of the politicians who criticize it when they don't like it will see that some of their dishonest tweets would be tagged or removed or would have notes put on them. They would be moderated much more. And if they included violent messages or other really inappropriate content, they would just be taken down. I think you'd see that on Facebook, Twitter, and others. And so the other thing is from a kid's standpoint, so it's obviously really important in a democracy standpoint, but as parents who are concerned about what may be on your kid's Instagram feed or something that could be on Snapchat or YouTube, you'd also have content moderation. And actually, in the long run, that's exactly what we have here on CNBC. I mean, Squawk Box is moderated. So are all broadcast and cable television and radio. So it'd be much more like what we expect today. And it would be a much healthier media and tech environment, in our opinion, and actually one that would be better for civic discourse and democracy as well.
Jim, the counsels for the House Antitrust Subcommittee have acknowledged that they can't write legislation that specifically calls to break up a single company, that it would have to reference a broad category of industries. And so there are a number of companies who could get swept up in such an effort. And I'm wondering if you see any unintended consequences if a strategy like that is pursued.
I think that's a great question. And as you guys may know, so Common Sense, along with the ADL, have been the folks leading the Stop Hate for Profit campaign, where we've largely targeted Facebook and Instagram with an advertising boycott. I believe you've spoken on that on Squawk Box before. And so what we have said is that in the case of, say, Facebook, we actually think they should be forced to divest themselves of both Instagram and WhatsApp. But you're right, that can't be done by legislation. The AG, either the U.S. Attorney General or the state AGs, will have to bring a case around that. And actually, I think from a business standpoint, it would be very healthy for a market competition, and in many ways might benefit the companies themselves in the long run in terms of the values of the company, the value of the individual entities. But what you would see, I think, is a less dominant play by 5 or 6 really large companies. But the truth is, it will be up to the Attorney General of the United States in 2021 to enforce this, or for the state attorneys general. But I think we will see some degree of antitrust action in 2021.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.